How high are the stakes in this election, you may be asking? Well, for starters, poll workers right now being given panic buttons and going through security training before Election Day. Tensions are very high, and there is concern about potential violence. In fact, we've already seen some alarming instances. Ballot boxes set on fire in Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon this week. Hundreds of ballots destroyed, authorities saying this is targeted and intentional. And the polls back that up. New data shows voters are worried about possible political violence, with more than 40% saying they are extremely concerned over violent attempts to overturn election results. Former Acting Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf, is joining us. Good morning to you, Chad, and welcome back as always. Let's start with the panic buttons. I mean, you've got poll workers who are getting ready to go do their jobs voluntarily, and they're worried about violence. To what would you compare this to politically in the past?
Well, look, I think any time that we have elections, and we've certainly seen this over the last few years, you're going to have some heated emotions on either side of this. So it's not just one side. We need to keep that in mind. It's on both sides. And so, look, election workers, poll workers, all those folks are just doing their job. A lot of those individuals are volunteers. And so I'm certainly in that camp that they're doing that for the right reasons. And we need to make sure that we give them the ability to do that. But we do know that from time to time there are irregularities in elections, and mistakes happen, things do happen. So there are also poll watchers at many of these places that both political parties have at these poll sites that are watching these poll workers, making sure that they're doing the right thing at the right time. But, you know, when we talk about violence of any kind at any polling section, obviously that's not acceptable at any time, at any place. And I think it's important to continue to call that out.
Take us through, in your mind, the most adequate security measures being set into motion ahead of Election Day, no matter where you live, big city or small, the things that people may see to make them feel safer and more secure when they go vote.
Well, when you show up at a voting place, if you're going to do that in-person voting, right, what we know is there's been a lot of early voting across a number of states over the past several weeks. But if you're going to do that in-person voting on Election Day, again, I'd say 99.9% of voting locations are very safe, very secure. Again, you're not going to have any incidents. There's always going to be, there perhaps could always be an incident of something occurring, but that's really anywhere in life, right? Anything that we do, you can go to the mall, there's always going to be some type of incident somewhere, and you need to plan for that. And obviously you need to be aware of your surroundings and make sure that you understand what's going on. But I think as individuals go to the polls on November 5th, they should do that knowing that, again, the vast, vast majority of those locations, almost all of them, are safe, they're secure. You usually have, depending on the location, you may even have law enforcement somewhere in the vicinity, maybe not there on the location, but somewhere in the vicinity of those locations as well. So I don't subscribe to the notion that, people are going to, come into these violent situations as they go to the polls on November 5th.
Talk us through some of the deeper layers of this when it comes to Homeland Security and the Department of Public Safety in tracking the chatter of extremist groups, some larger groups with intent to do harm to our election or to interfere. How heightened is that in a time like this, and what are some things to assure Americans that the work's being done to prevent that type of violence?
Well, sure. Whether it's DHS or the FBI, they're always tracking threats, right? And so whether as the threats relate to November 5th, both from foreign adversaries, but also from individuals here in the United States as well. So whether they're homegrown extremists, whether they are foreign extremists that have come into the United States in any given way. And so you're always going to track that from an intelligence standpoint. And then understanding, are they motivated? Is there some action related to some of the things that they may be saying online, or what it might be? And then, of course, it's up to law enforcement to take the relevant action. And, of course, I think the department from time to time, DHS, I should say, from time to time, issues some advisories that will try to alert the American people to some of the information that they've picked up. I will tell you, though, over time, and particularly over the last 3.5 to 4 years, the department's credibility in this area is a little suspect. They continue to issue advisories about domestic violence, homegrown violent extremists, but they don't issue advisories about the threats coming across that southern border. So
thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.